procedure that is being proposed. I would ask that Pat Evans, co-chair of the committee that worked on this proposal, to come forward at this time and to make a motion so we can begin discussion. Pat. So I just need to have you first moved.
I just want to say first that I'm Pat Evans, in case anyone doesn't know who I am, and that the church's documents were not written to be cut in stone, but to be fluid and changed as circumstances are changed by time and events. Today we vote to revise two very important church documents, and I'll start with the safety covenant first. I make a motion that the congregation approve the safety covenant policy and procedure as drafted, printed, distributed, and proposed for vote by the congregation at this meeting.
Is there a second? My cough. She has to keep a record at the same time. There being a motion and a second, we'll now have a discussion. Pat's going to introduce the proposal.
Just to give you a little bit of background, and I've tried to make this as short as I can, but I want you to have an understanding of what we're doing here. As a congregation, we may ask, the church adopted a safety sanctuary policy many years ago, but we are now creating a safety covenant. In 2005, our congregation adopted a safety sanctuary policy for adults working with children and youth. This policy was a set of guidelines to protect vulnerable adult individuals within the congregation that included children, youth, and adults, making it a safe place for all to experience God's love and fellowship. The policy is intended to minimize the risk of harm to vulnerable individuals and prevent false claims of wrongdoing. In 2021, Amy, as the Director of Children and Youth Ministries, and I, as the Chairperson of the Personnel Committee, and the leadership team began to discuss updating the Safe Sanctuary policy. During the same time, we learned that the discipleship ministries of the United Church of Christ copyrighted the name Safe Sanctuary.
Wasn't that United Methodist Church?
Oh, what did I say?
United Church of Christ.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for correction. United Methodist Church copyrighted the name Safe Sanctuary. The term Safe Sanctuaries is a United Methodist trademark that refers to their efforts to make programs safe and welcoming for children, youth, and vulnerable adults. To continue to use Safe Sanctuary as a third-party organization, we would have been required to use their exact policy. We were not allowed to legally use the name Safe Sanctuary in any form. This meant that we would need to rename our policy and update it. The Safety Covenant, as drafted, is a combination of our current policy and the text from the 2017 Registered Trademark Safe Conduct Template. This template is provided as a service by the Insurance Board, a nonprofit insurance and risk management ministry, as a service to churches and camps of the denominations it serves, which includes the United Church of Christ. The materials provided are based in part on guidance provided Presidium Incorporated, their business partner and consultants in matters of abuse prevention. Updating and revising the Safe Sanctuary policy has been a long and tedious endeavor. Amy and I have spent countless hours amending and restating the Safe Sanctuary policy since January of 2022. With the assistance and guidance of the Wisconsin UCC Conference and our leadership team and pastor, the documents have been distributed to church officers, staff, ministries, committees, project groups, and to Hearts and Hands for review and recommendation for approval to the congregation. The documents before you for vote today is the culmination of our work efforts. The church and everyone that is in contact with our youth and vulnerable adults is ultimately responsible for enforcement and compliance of the Safety Covenant policy and procedure. The policies apply to everyone as a member of this church who are responsible. See something, do something, say something. See something, identify and recognize abuse. Be aware that abuse can happen at any level, but particularly with youth and vulnerable adults. Know the signs and symptoms of abuse and take the necessary action to do something and say something. Do something. Don't talk yourself out of taking action. You could be the one person preventing a youth from being sexually, physically, or emotionally abused. Take the necessary action to interrupt or stop the abuse. Call 911 if the abuse is happening now or is violent in nature. Persons making reports in good faith are immune from criminal or civil liability. Know the red flags and take action. Interrupt the abuse. Explain what you saw that concerns you. Suggest an alternative way to interact. Point out the policy and violations. Policies are designed to keep everyone safe. Do not decide for yourself whether a policy is good or bad. If there is a rule, there is a reason. Say something. Report abuse. Don't talk yourself out of reporting the incident. It's better to report than to regret. If you are unsure whether or not their suspected case falls under this definition, it is strongly recommended that you err on the side of caution and report this suspicion immediately. Report to Pastor Matt or a member of the Personnel Committee only. Provide a verbal report followed up by a written report with details, not investigations or conclusions. Respect victims and suspected abusers. When you make a report, there will be immediate response. When a concern has been expressed or an allegation made, swift and determined action will be taken to reduce any subsequent risk to the youth or vulnerable adult, to the accused individual, and to the First Congregational UCC Church. All reports, allegations, or suspicions or inappropriate behavior will be taken seriously. Our procedures will be carefully followed to ensure that the rights of all those involved are protected. First Congregational UCC will fully cooperate with authorities if allegations of abuse are made that require legal investigation. The Education Ministry is responsible for training. Fulfillment of training requirements will be documented and monitored by the task force. The task force is responsible for developing and enforcing the safety covenant policy and procedure. The task force shall annually and as deemed necessary review and update the safety covenant policy and procedure. The members of the task force are, please stand if I call your name, the authorized clergy, which is Pastor Matt, the advocacy panel, which is the personnel committee, which is Jeff Van Dam, Marty Wiley, Carolyn Crom, and Marissa Dom. The church leadership is the moderator, Chris Mall. The clerical assistance is the church clerk, and that's me. We would also have a legal assistance by an attorney. The education ministry chairpersons are Emily Steckbauer and Darla Corby, and the director of youth and youth ministries is Amy Drew. So those are the people who would represent us if there is a case. Bottom line is you have a responsibility as an adult to protect the children within your care. They cannot protect themselves. They rely on you to keep them safe. By voting for and approving this safety covenant, we will have adopted policies, procedures, and educational programs to reduce the possibility of youth and vulnerable adults being abused sexually, physically, or emotionally, or any type of sexual misconduct or harassment from occurring in our congregation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them at this time. If there are no questions, I call for a vote.
Is there any further discussion? All right, I see no further discussion. I will call for the vote to approve the motion as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any abstentions? There being none, I hear that it's moved and is carried. All right, excellent.
Thank you for all your good work, everybody.
Yes, that's it.
Stay right here. The second order of business is somewhat directly related to the first. To implement parts of the safety covenant policy and procedure, it was necessary to make some minor changes to the church constitution, as well as updating other sections. Before we can discuss those changes, I need a motion from the floor to approve the changes as they've been printed.
I make a motion.
Pat is number 1, John Kyle is the second. There now being a motion and a second, I would ask Pat to discuss what we're going to add and or change to the Constitution. Other pile.
I know. Just gotta get it all straightened out here. I get too many papers in my hands and then I can't do anything. So the covenant is changed by quite a bit this time. And it's because we've ignored some changes that we have made for several years. And so this is just a kind of a culmination of trying to pull all of that data together. So we're going to be adding our vision, which is the vision of the church is to engage and inspire all generations to connect with God through love and service. And we previously had a mission that was printed in our Constitution, but as I said, things change as futures change. So we are going to change the wording in that particular section to say we are a welcoming Christian community who joyfully unite to love, honor, and worship God. We gather to share God's word, seek the ways of Christ, be renewed through the Holy Spirit, and are sent out as Christ's disciples to serve others. Realizing that the success of the church depends upon the consecration of its individual members, we covenant together to attend the services of this church, to contribute according to our means to its support and to maintain its peace and harmony, and in every way possible to promote its spiritual and temporal welfare. We are also adding a section that says we commit to model the values and behaviors of First Congregational UCC. Our values are welcoming, Christianity, relationships, outreach mission, youth-centered, multi-generational music. And our behaviors are, we welcome and value all people, live as Christ-centered life, connect with our church family and those we serve, generously offer your time, talent, and treasures, embrace, inspire, and engage our youth on their faith journey, respect and appreciate everyone's needs and contributions, and praise God through song. There was a change in the congregational meeting, and some of our members have been asking for that, to take out the 2 quarterly meetings, and so now the Constitution will just read, in addition to annual corporate meeting, 2 meetings of the members of the congregation shall be held each year. 1 in the spring and 1 in the fall. These meetings shall provide opportunities for communication and updates from the various ministries, project groups, committees, and leadership role with the members of the of the congregation. We're also adding the section of the relational covenant, which reads, we, the members of First United Church of Christ of Oconomowoc, commit to treating one another fairly, honestly, with respect, remembering that we are all beloved children of God. We promise to listen to one another with focus and patience, withholding judgment. When differences arise that cause conflict, we commit to responding with directness and timeliness, and to create safe spaces to engage in conversation that allows each person to hear the other. After conversation, we commit to acknowledging the complexity of the differences, and will try to understand that there are many sides to any disagreement. We will claim ownership of our part in the conflict, and will publicly support the outcomes of resolution, seeking to recommit to relationship building and faithfulness to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Then in Article 10, our organizational structure under ministries, Section B3, Education Ministry, we changed this ministry description because of the safety covenant that we just voted on. And so their duties will include recruiting and training teachers and volunteers, selecting curricula, making policy decisions, serving on the Safety Covenant Task Force, and securing necessary materials and equipment. Also, further down in their description, it will read, the Education Ministry will provide oversight and coordination of youth ministry program of the church. The Education Ministry shall ensure that adequate funding and support is provided for the youth and vulnerable adults fellowship groups. The adult leaders for the fellowship groups will be selected and supervised by the education ministry. There will be a correction of the name under Article 10, Section C, under the standing committees, under number 3, the Pastoral Relations Committee. The title was never changed when we revised that section, and now it will read the Pastoral Relations Committee and does not include staff and support. The Caring Connection Committee, the sentence, there's been a sentence change, and we've also deleted some section of that, and so now it will read, the purpose of Caring Connection Committee is a network of volunteers from our congregation who direct God's healing message to to church family members in need. Duties in coordination with the pastor include confidential prayer requests, transportation, meals, funeral, luncheons, visitations, sending cards of sympathy and celebration, delivering gifts to members in need, and prayer shawls. The Caring Connection Committee reports to the Welcoming Ministry. And lastly, under Article 11 of the auxiliary organizations, number 1, the Hearts and Hands Christian Preschool. The section that was changed was the first paragraph, and it will now read, the Hearts and Hands Christian Preschool Board shall consist of the preschool staff, ex officio without voting, and 5 additional board members, 3 of whom are members of the First Congregational Church of Christ, and 2 who may be from the general community to be elected at the annual corporate meeting, 2 to be elected 1 year, and 3 the next, all to serve for a maximum of 3 consecutive 2-year terms.
So those are the proposed changes to the Constitution. Is there any further discussion? Sue.
I just had a question on the first page where you're talking about the values and behaviors. I need to identify. My name is Susan Schneider Adams. Now, I'm not here often enough, so I maybe shouldn't say this. I just was wondering, at outreach and mission, it says generously offer your time, talent, treasures. All the others are our. I was wondering if we should have that say our time, talent, and treasures, so it's matching. It's, like I said, it's picky uni, but just a question.
It's a good catch. Thank you very much for doing that.
Could they talk in a microphone?
She did. I don't think the mic was on.
This one's working.
Oh, we have one live mic.
Maybe you can just repeat.
Okay. The comment she had is on the first page of the proposed constitutional changes under outreach and mission. It did read generously offer your time, talent, and treasures. She pointed out that all the others refer to our time, talent, and treasures. So she's saying we should change the word your to our.
Just a suggestion.
It's a suggestion. Well, it's now an amendment. John, do I have to vote on that amendment? Okay.
Friendly amendment.
Or is there a second for the amendment?
Second.
Okay, Mickey. All in favor of the amendment to change the word your to our in that section, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Nay.
Dave Ferris. Couple of questions and one correction. I'll start with the correction, that's the simplest. Article 11, the Christian preschool is a board. the last sentence calls it a committee.
Just a second.
There's are similar functions, but a board and a committee are not exactly the same.
So in the last sentence in section 1, it says the committee shall also assist the director, teacher, and curriculum. You're saying it should change to the board. Yeah,
The
that's
board.
correct. That would make it consistent.
There isn't a committee.
There isn't a committee, it's called a board. So it's a semantic issue, but it's essentially the same. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, then in the covenant, are these subtitles where it says vision and mission, or are those not to be part of it? It would be kind of clunky to recite it that way.
I'm not sure I understand, Dave.
He suggested we take
Vision,
out the title
and then the vision.
mission,
Oh,
and just make
Is
it
that
all.
extra subtitle vision unneeded?
is there further discussion about that? He's suggesting that underneath the, where we have, it says vision, and then there's the statement, and then mission, and then there's the statement. He's suggesting that we take the word, the header vision and mission out. Is there any feeling one way or another? Yeah, Nikki?
Mickey Kellner, I think we need to identify those as our mission. That was all,
Okay.
but thank you. They don't want me to do that.
Oh, Dave wants it back.
The text already says it's the vision. And let's see, mission, is that also a subtitle? Or is that a Article 4.1? And then
No,
the,
that's a subtitle.
right, is that part of the recitation? Because we often recite the covenant. Just take those words out as you're reciting. You don't need that extra ka-chunk.
Okay, Dave, I guess I lost you again. Where were you talking about taking, I know you want the subtitles vision and mission out. Is that again, mission?
Vision and mission, yeah.
Okay. So he's just
So that
suggesting,
it just reads as a text straight through.
Take this vision out,
Okay.
this mission out, so that if you were
Okay.
reciting the whole.
I got you now,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
I have a question then, is it on? Yes. Would that make those things part of our covenant then? So it would read as though our covenant just continues on?
That's a really good question.
Because on the first, wow,
Yeah, that's-
there we are. On the first page, our covenant is what we're addressing. And so this would just be a paragraph added to our covenant? That's why I want mission left in there as a subtitle underneath covenant, because otherwise we're revising the covenant. And I don't think we want to mess with that yet. I mean, I don't think that was what your intent was.
No, it was not. Was
That's
simply
why
to
I
add
think,
that.
that's why I think even if we remove vision, I think we need mission there to distinguish that that's something separate from our actual covenant.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, but Dave, what do you think? She's just, her argument is that it's, if we take out the vision and mission subheadings, then it falls as, it makes it look like it's part of the covenant, and it's not.
Okay, these are supposed to be separate, like an Article 4.1 and a 4.2?
Yes,
Oh, it's not identified as a 4.1.
we could reformat it to make it a little bit more obvious,
Okay,
okay? We'll reformat it, okay?
okay, and then also the values and behaviors, is that supposed to be part of the covenant too? That's kind of awkward to recite as well.
That's part of the mission.
should this be up here?
it's under mission.
So mission should be underlined in bold.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is more a reformatting issue than it is a substantive issue.
So should mission be a 4.1 or a 4.2?
Yes, we'll make it a 4.2.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, Rich,
It's fun, isn't it?
yeah. It's really fun.
Still not on.
It's on, it's
How
on.
it is.
Rich Stephens. Maybe it's just, when I read through it, it says our covenant, but doesn't say our vision, our mission. So that way it does pull off into a different, so it would just be, here's our covenant, our vision, our mission. And that would then maybe help with some bit of the formatting.
Okay. John?
The vision and mission are two separate statements that have been voted on previously by the church, and I think they should remain just as you've got it written on the changes as they are.
Okay. All right, so we're going to have to vote first on these proposed changes, okay? One would be to add the word "our" before vision and mission as the header, so that it coincides with our covenant. And then the other is to reformat it so that it separates out, it's like a 4.1, 4.2 kind of thing, so that it's obvious that it's not part of the covenant. Okay, does those do? Does that make sense? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, that passes. Any other discussion on the constitutional changes with the amendments? Dave?
Yeah, what about the values of the acres? Is that a 4.3?
Where is that?
Toward the bottom.
On the page.
Yeah, that we'll reformat it so it conforms to that.
Okay.
Okay, so it makes it separate. All right. All right.
R.A. Roberts. These are relatively, or I appreciate these changes for the Constitution, but they're relatively minor and should have been brought to the attention of the people that are in charge ahead of time so that they would know what's going on and they could have it reformatted ahead of time. It's just minor stuff like this. Would be nice if you just emailed them and let them know what's going on or what your questions are ahead of time. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the constitutional changes with the amendments, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Cool, those are passed. Thanks, Pat. All right. Yay! We got the voting done. The rest of the agenda is dedicated to the various ministries, committees, and task groups to give reports of their recent activities and to highlight any upcoming events they wish to bring to the congregationalist attention. Many of them prepared written reports that are either have them emailed to you or you have a hard copy in your hands. First report is our senior pastor, Matt. Would you come forward at this time, please?
I submitted the written report. Are there any questions or comments, anything you'd like to offer or questions you'd like to raise? Thank you.
Yes. Oh, no, shut down the phone. There you go. Next up is a report from our co-treasurers, Bob Frick and/or George Moeller.
Thanks, Chris. Try not to get too much into the numbers, but feel free to ask questions or catch me at any point in time. I can kind of walk through our financials. Just real quick, compliments to our budget and stewardship teams that a year ago put together our budget. We're tracking pretty close to that budget. We had about a $38,000 shortfall budget. We're still tracking towards that roughly $38,000 shortfall. Leadership is looking at how to address that. Do we have a special appeal? Do we dig into our own internal reserves? We have about $100,000 sitting in our our cash unrestricted account, which will slowly attrit a little bit between now and the end of the year, but there are some reserves there. Or do we borrow against our internal restricted reserves or through a third party? So I think financially we are very sound. We have a good cash balance. We have a great endowment. We've got a short-term budget shortfall that we need to address. I'm optimistic we'll get that addressed, and we'll also be in a good position in 2025 to have a strong, balanced budget as giving has gone up. Stewardship has done a nice job kind of turning things around in the past year. Thanks to Pastor Matt, Amy, and staff. So all in all, I'd say we're in a good position. We're tracking according to budget, but we do have a shortfall that we need to make sure we address here in the fourth quarter. So feel free to grab me at any time. Thank you.
So the good news out of that is we were right on target with our budget. The bad news is we budgeted a $38,000 shortfall, and we still have a $38,000 shortfall. So if the Spirit moves you to give a little bit more in this fourth quarter, we'd love it. Next up is we're going to hear from Administrative Ministry and Dan Moldenhauer.
Good morning, everyone. Dan Moldenhauer, not Santa Claus. Chair of the admin, I'd like to give before I start with my little spiel here, I'd like to give a big thank you to the members of the ministry, Rich Steffens, Jim Zajac, Brett Steinke, Tim Schuyler, who I don't see here today, and our recent member who passed, Gary Phillips. Without them and all they do around here every day, it makes my job easier, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know the big question people want is where are we on our insurance claim? And the short answer is we are nowhere fast. The insurance is still taking their sweet time and dragging out our claim. And I get their perspective. If they're gonna end up owing us $500,000 to $1 million for repairs, why give that money to you right now when we can make you, sit there and torture yourself and maybe give up? We are moving forward. It's very, very slow. The adjusters were here, I believe I had August 2nd, where they went through the entire church, looked at everything, and they've had a couple conference calls to address what they want to talk about. The last call they had was on October 4th, and they talked about the rubber roof. Nothing was settled, nothing was compromised, but that's where we are now. Our adjuster, Garth, feels that we are in a very good position right now because our appraisers both need to get moving down to North Carolina, Florida, Georgia to start working on hurricane-related claims. They can't just stop our claim and go down there. They have to kind of finish our claim. So we're they do know that, but again, it's one of those things. They owe us money, so they're going to take their sweet time. The only other two things I have is this Saturday is our Saturday work day. We're going to probably be cleaning up outside. There are some things that need to be done in the interior to get ready for the rummage sale. There's documents that need to be looked through. I believe there's old photos and slides that need to be looked through and moved to maybe a different location. And the last thing I had is membership. Since we have lost our sixth member, Gary, we are looking for someone else to join our group. So if you know someone or you are that someone, we would be interested in talking to you about it. That's all I have, so if anyone has questions. Nope, don't see anyone, thank you.
Hi, Dave Ferris again. Do we have any immediate problems with the roof damage, such as when it rains, you gotta put out buckets?
There are some leaks by the front entrance that we know that we have. But again, there's nothing we can do about it right now. We have to wait for our adjusters and appraiser to finish all of their work before we can go and tear that apart to take a closer look at it. We don't want to take anything apart in case they have to make another, they have to come back and do another assessment.
Dan, Ari Roberts again. Many of the people in the church keep asking, is there anything that we can do to speed up the insurance process? In other words, can we push them along? Can we go to the insurance commissioner? Can you address that issue?
Chris has a letter sitting, waiting to be sent to the insurance commissioner. We are hoping that we get this done before the end of the year. We were actually hoping to get it done last year when John was still in charge. But that's how the insurance company works. They're just slow playing everything. So I think within the next couple of weeks to a month, Chris will probably send his letter. But as individuals, no, there's nothing we can really do other than not use Cincinnati insurance.
So yeah, there's nothing that we can do to speed the process up. It's just a matter of waiting for them then.
I harp on Garth, our adjuster, at least once or twice a week, asking what's going on.
Mick, excuse me, Mick Van Every. I was going to ask what Ari said, but is there a time frame from the state? Is it from the time that we made the claim, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Okay.
We have to complete our work within, I believe it was we have to start our work within 2 years. And we have already started our work because we have replaced the shingled roof above us. We've also replaced a section of the entrance by the old Head Start entrance. And we've also recently replaced the AC unit above the music room. So we have already started the process, and that's what our policy states.
Mike Huff, with this delay, everything is exasperating. I mean, it's just getting bigger and bigger. Where it costs $500 to fix something, it's going to cost $1,000. So you're sitting there with millions, or arguing about $1 million. Can't we do something? This is crazy, because by the time it gets done, it's going to cost $2 million, and $1 million is going to come out of our pocket.
I wish we could move the process along faster. We have lucked out actually with our HVAC unit that we put in recently. Due North Heating and Cooling purchased that unit for us in March of this year. And it actually sat at their office until it was installed on September 20th. And they charged us what they bought it for. So they were generous enough to do that for us. As far as wolf siding, with the siding or the rubber roof, no. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. It'd be the exact opposite if all of a sudden prices dropped. It's just we're up a creek without a paddle.
Lois Jackson. Mine is not a technical question at all. I'm just curious about the outdoor worship benches that were removed. Could you tell me where they are?
We removed those because they were rotting.
Oh.
And we actually got permission from the gentleman who was the Boy Scout who installed them 40-some years ago, and talked to him, and he was okay with us removing them. So we removed them, and then we did place some dirt to level the areas out so it's easier to mow. Hopefully that worked out. But yeah, they were rotting, and they were in concrete, so it's not like they were easy to remove and put something different in there.
Okay, thank you.
I can add to that. We talked to, Amy is the one who uses that area the most, and she said that she had no problem taking the benches out, because in the future, if they use it, they'll use folding chairs.
Thank you.
Dan, Mike Harrow, microphone that doesn't work. And I thought we had hired an advocate to help us through this process. Can you let us know where that's at?
Yeah, we hired Garth Grandchamp, who is our public adjuster, and he is the one who suggested Jonathan Radent as our appraiser. So Garth is the one I'm in contact with once or twice a week to help us move us along, and he can only go as fast as the appraisers go.
So to make it clear, so Garth has been with us for what, year and a half, almost, working through the process. When it became clear to us that the insurance company, my gosh, how do I do this without going to hell?
Right, and that's what I'm thinking to myself.
Well, or compromising anything if this were to get broadcast.
Yes, broadcast somewhere. So We exercised a clause within our policy that said that if there was a disagreement, we could go to arbitration. It's essentially binding arbitration. And so they, Garth suggested Jonathan Radin as our adjuster. So the insurance company has an adjuster and we have an adjuster. And those two guys are in the process of talking it back and forth. And they've both been here, they've both done their inspections, and now they're trying to come to some agreement or some compromise if you can. If they can't, then the final section is we have to hire an umpire, which is more money. We don't want to do that.
Right.
But we hire an umpire who then is the final arbitrator. And he will say, all right, Cincinnati Insurance, you have to pay them X. Where the news we're getting, and tell me if I'm wrong, that we're hoping that we can avoid that last step. Because there is some sliding, there's some movement. But that's where we are right now.
I just had a question in reference to the benches.
Yes.
Could we know which scout that was that put them in?
I can get back to you.
It was an Eagle. Oh,
Jamie Hogan.
thank you.
I have a question about this Garth, Marty Wiley, about this Garth that we're paying. Are we paying him per hour, or are we paying him for his role in the, till the procedure is complete?
Okay, so Garth, who is our adjuster, gets paid a percentage of new income he brings us from the insurance company. So if our settlement with the insurance company, just sheer math here, is $500,000, Garth gets paid 10% of that, so he would get $50,000. Jonathan Radin, who is our appraiser, is an hourly, he gets paid hourly, and he gets paid $300 per hour. The positive side for us is Wolf Siding is going to eat some of Garth, our adjuster, his money for what they end up doing with the roof or the siding or the windows or the doors, whatever. Wolf said they would eat some of his money that we owe him.
Anyone else? All right, thanks. All good stuff. All good stuff.
And thank you, Dan, for
Yeah.
this whole process.
In the interest of time, I'm going to invite the next three up at the same time to answer any questions. So I need a representative from Stewardship Ministry, Mission Ministry, and or Hearts and Hands. If you three would come up. Again, they have written reports in the booklet if you have any questions. I guess you. Where is anybody else?
I didn't know that I could come up. I'm the only person from Mission.
Okay. So, do you have anything you want to emphasize at this point? Any comments? Otherwise, they're here to answer any questions.
How about, talk about Stewardship Sunday? When is it?
Thank you. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Bob. So we have Stewardship Sunday coming up, and I'm totally going to forget, I think it's November 10th, if I'm correct. November 10th is Stewardship Sunday, kicking off 2025, and you'll all be receiving, hopefully at the end of next week, if all things go well, receive all the packets for the 2025 Time and Talent, as well as all things related to the stewardship ask for 2025. So look for November 10th. Hopefully we'll see everybody here for that.
Any questions? John, Kyle.
This is a question for the Mission Ministry. In the budget, it's got $2,304 that's been spent, I think. There was $12,000 budgeted, and the projected amount says $14,000. I'm just wondering what projects are going to be using up that $10,000 or $12,000 that's unaccounted for.
That is definitely above my pay grade.
Well, if you can,
that would be
if
more.
you can go ask Pat or Pam that and then
Pam,
get back to
yeah.
John. Or-
The conference $10,000
Oh,
contribution.
Okay, oh, all right. So we did decide as a ministry to allocate $10,000.
Well, so
wait, you
if
need
you could
the
repeat
mic.
it so it goes to the microphone, the OCWM was moved under mission. It used to be under administrative budget, and in the budget, it was moved under mission this year.
I don't know if everyone could hear that, but we did take OCWM under.
Was just shifted within the budget, so now it's under mission.
OCW, 1 grade hour.
1 grade hour sharing will be now, so that money will be allocated from our bit. Right. Our church.
Yeah.
Any other questions on mission?
Thanks, guys. All right, thank you. So could I have someone from education, spirituality, and or welcoming? Come on up. All right, cool. Does anyone have any questions for education, spirituality, or welcoming, or do any of you three have anything you want to emphasize at this point?
I'm up here on behalf of the education ministry. You can see in our report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I do want to emphasize, because we have seen a decline in membership with kids, we are brainstorming and always trying to come up with ways to attract families with children. And a couple of the events that we have coming up for over the holidays, you see in our report. We have the Christmas pageant, and we also have the live nativity. So December 15th, the Christmas pageant, and December 6th, the live nativity. And also the cookie sale that kind of goes along with all of those things. These are great opportunities for all of us to try to reach out to people that we know in the community, get them to come to these things, and possibly have them join our church. So we're asking that you please, help support that and think of who can you invite to some of those things to enjoy and just see the youth active in our church. And we're also going to benefit from the cookie sale. So we are going to need bakers. I can't give you details about the cookie sale just yet because it's still being decided, but we're going to definitely need bakers for that. So also, we invited people to come down and just observe a Sunday school class. We are blessed with many teachers, but there are always weeks in a month where we're a little short, and sometimes we have to combine some age groups because we don't have enough teachers that week. So even if you'd like to once a quarter teach, Amy makes it super easy, and it is just a joyful thing to do. So I'm hoping that somebody will give it a try, or we're hoping that someone will give it a try and maybe try once a month, once a quarter, just to try teaching. We'd appreciate a little extra support. Thank you.
Mickey, did you have anything you want to say?
Mickey Kellner from Spirituality. The only thing that I have to add to the report that's printed, last spring we formed loosely a project group to talk about safety in the worship area during worship on Sunday mornings. This has nothing to do with the safety covenant that we just voted on. This is totally separate. And we brainstormed a lot of ideas to make the sanctuary a safer place. And one of the things that we'd like everybody to become aware of are the exits from the sanctuary. If there were ever an occasion where we were not able to exit into Fellowship Hall, I'm going to play flight attendant here. There's an exit out of the family room, the crying room over here. And they aren't real heavily marked, but there's also either that way at the side here to go behind this wall here in the sacristy, or on the other side. In the middle of the sacristy, there's a door and a set of stairs that go down to the unfinished space. which is also an exit for the sanctuary, and anytime after worship, if somebody'd like to see where it is, if they're unfamiliar, I'd be happy to show it to them, or anyone else on spirituality would. There's also an exit behind the AV desk. And it's just, it would be good for everyone to familiarize themselves with it. Also, maybe have a ministry meeting and have each of the members of your ministry observe all of those and make sure they're familiar with them, because that's a real good way to have the congregation become more familiar. In case there were ever an emergency and we needed to assist other people, we need to know where the exits are.
Good idea.
Any questions for spirituality?
Cool.
Heading into Advent.
Thank you very much. Deb? I'm going to ask Deb Bersinger to come forward and give us a quick update about the upcoming rummage sale. Also, if there are any other committees or task groups that want to say anything, this is your chance.
Thank you. Good morning. Deb Bersinger. I'm here on behalf of Jill Riemann. She couldn't be here this morning, but has some important announcements regarding the rummage sale that she asked me to make. The sale is November 16th. The first Sunday that we will be setting up things in the church is November 3rd. And after that, people will start sorting every day. People should be feel free to stop by whenever they have a few extra minutes to help with sorting. She is still looking for volunteers for the following: room ambassadors for the kitchen rummage, the boutique, girls clothing, and candles and vases. Also, she is looking for someone who would head up the food and the luncheon and serving volunteers lunch on November 3rd. She wants me to mention that donations are welcome at any time, but please only donate items that you would give to family or friends. This means, I'm just quoting, no rust, stains, etc. We are not taking bed pillows, mattresses, tires, paint, TVs, old microwaves, open bottles of toiletries, or household cleaners. Also, she asked that people keep in mind that if you would have to pay to get rid of it, for example, old electronics, the church will also have to pay to dispose of it if it's dropped off here. A Sign Up Genius was mailed out earlier this week. Yeah, okay. So if you don't want to use Sign Up Genius but want to sign up for something, you can always feel free to call Jill. I will try to answer questions if there are any, but otherwise, see Jill, talk to Jill. Yes, Lois?
Just a comment that there is so much stuff down there in the unfinished area that they really do not want any, Lois Jackson, they do not want any more things donated at this time. I think they're overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they already have.
Oh, my turn? Okay, that's not an official thing. That's from the group of us that organize it every Saturday. That was the opinion of one of our group. I appreciate you mentioning it, but the one thing that maybe Jill didn't include in there is that we'd really prefer not receiving major appliances. That because of what you just mentioned, that we have to pay to recycle them, and unless there's some other arrangement directly with Jill to discourage people from dropping off used appliances.
Any more comments? Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. So the last report is from your leadership team, so that's me. And I really do appreciate Pastor's scripture choice where you remember it said the first will be last and the last will be first. So I'm going right to the head there. As I wrote in my, you guys have to listen to the scripture sometimes. As I wrote in my report, the leadership team's been busy doing its job, which is promoting and coordinating all the various church ministry efforts. As you just heard, we're a very active church pursuing God's mission here on earth. Praise Jesus. That being said, there are two specific actions that the leadership team's been accomplished that I'm very proud of. As you may recall, one of this year's leadership team goals was to address the church's IT infrastructure. I can tell you that over the past few months, our hired computer consultant has organized and improved the church's computer hardware and software to the point that we're as secure and as solid as reasonably possible. It would now take a major effort to hack into the church's database, and the church staff can now share and retrieve documents on a consistent basis. This is a win, because I got tired of hearing Amy talk to me about this. The second action that's been undertaken was the creation and use of our relational covenant. We just approved the addition of this important document into our church constitution, and we've already seen it used on the ministry and committee level. The one issue that I've learned in all my years in corporate America is that communication, bad or inconsistent communication, can really screw things up. The relational covenant is a great step forward in avoiding that pitfall, and this is a big win. My last comment has to do with my work as the chair of the nominating committee. Mickey Kellner and I have been busy identifying those ministries and or committee members who either need to re-up or are terming out of their positions. Right now, I know I have about a dozen openings spread out over the various ministries and committees, and we're going to start asking for suggestions from people on possible candidates. And we're going to begin asking members in the next few weeks to, based on those suggestions. What I need you all to do now is to begin to think about your commitment to church and how you see yourself living out your faith, kind of like what Matt was talking about an hour ago. Most ministry and or committees only meet once a month, so the time commitment may not be that huge on your part. Please give prayerful consideration, and if you feel a specific urge for a group, let Mickey or I know, and we'll see if we can slot you into a place. Enough about that. Is there any other discussion or comments that the congregation wants to make? Seeing none, I'll now ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Mike Hoff, seconded. Your wife. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of adjourning the meeting say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. 1 hour. Hot dog. Go Pack.